Hello, it's me again. Welcome to another Lloyd of Gamebooks vlog. And today I'll be talking about Rulers of the Now, my entry to the 2011 Windhammer competition. I'm recording this on the 30th of October, the date the voting closes. So I don't actually know if I've won or not and what people have said about it. But I do know that I didn't vote for myself this year. I did last year, shock horror. But I think the Rulers of the Now wasn't as good as Sharkbait's Revenge, and it wasn't as good as the ones that I voted for. And I'll go through why. So the idea of Rulers of the Now is it's the 31st century. You're living on Callisto, moon of Jupiter, and you're being told everywhere that you're living in a wonderful time and place, and the government will look after you, and everything will be fine. Where in reality your job's your job is terrible, everything breaks down, and people are actually quite mean. And then you go through a pretty typical day, and you get back very tired, and you find your house is burnt down, even though you've been told, and so has everyone been told, that houses are fireproof. Okay. And then you also find out that your brain cell, which is a little pocket computer that basically has everything you need on it, your diary, your calendar, your access to the internet, your anything that a computer nowadays can do is all on a little mobile phone sized thing called a brain cell, has also died. So your connection to the outside world has been severed. You have a chip in your right hand which keeps a database of all the money you have. That's also been switched off. So you've got no money, you've got no connection to the internet or a phone or anything like that, and your house is burned down. And basically it's part of a bigger story, the Rulers of the Now. It's the first 100 paragraphs, and the first 100 paragraphs in which you escape your hometown. Okay, and you need to escape it because, as well as all these nasty things happening to you one day, you also find out that you have been accused of burning your own house down, and you're being chased down as a terrorist by the enforcers. So all in all, it's not a very good day for you. But I suppose you've had better days. There are also other mysteries that might turn up, such as, well, for a start, who burnt your house down and why. And then there's other things you might find out, such as there are aliens who have made the society what it is today, and they're called the Zetas because they're from Zeta Reticuli, and for some reason they need external hard drives from humans with lots of data on them. So that's a bit of a mystery. Other mysteries are, is the government actually nice? The biggest mystery is, who are the real rulers of the now? Okay, so once you begin to start running away from once your normal life around you has been destroyed, you get to see other aspects of society that you haven't really been told about, or that you've been told to keep away from. So you could end up in the section of your sector where the undesirables live, and you've always been told to keep away from them, and they live horrible lives, and they'll never amount to anything because they don't fit in with society. But you find out they have a nice underground network, and most of them actually do pretty well, living off the society that the government and the new order of worlds has built up. There's also a group of rebels, okay, which fight against the new order of worlds. And one of the questions is, if your world's so great, then why are the rebels fighting against it? Okay. And then there's some other things that I left in, such as there's a robot called Helen, who is based on the most beautiful woman that ever lived. I mean, what part does she play? You haven't met a Zeta yet. What part do they play? And what goes on the other worlds, or also moons, of Jupiter, Saturn, and Earth, and the Moon, which humans aren't really allowed to go to. So there's all kinds of mysteries that have been set up, and I haven't really answered them because it's intended for a longer game book. And that leads to another problem I think the book had, that the introduction and the exposition was far too long for a 100 paragraph game book. I left in a lot of stuff that I could have taken out, and it would have made a perfectly good 100 paragraph game book. I wrote everything as if it was for the game book, which I'm going to have 666 paragraphs to, because it's based, since Rulers of the Now is based on conspiracy theories and the occult, 666 is a pretty significant number. So I think it was far too long. I think it's about 25,000 words in 100 paragraphs, which is an enormous amount. I had to shrink down the font to get it within 40 pages. So I can imagine that some people might find it a bit long. I can imagine that some people might find it a bit confusing, because I tried to squeeze in too much into one paragraph sometimes. It's like, if you do this, turn here. If you don't, carry on reading. I reckon that I could easily have made the first 100 paragraphs stretch out to 150 paragraphs, and they'll be more clear, because I'm trying to squeeze in too much into 100 paragraphs. From a gameplay point of view, it uses the old system from Sharkbait's Revenge, which has proved itself to be quite good. Instead of 100 health, I gave you 20 health, so I divided everything by 5, which I think was a problem with Sharkbait's Revenge. I think 100 was a bit too, the gradient was a bit too small. I was telling people to lose 3 health and 2 health, and it wasn't really making much of a difference. And in the end, most of my health changes were in increments of 5 anyway, so I thought I'll just divide everything by 5. I've also got willpower, which is at 20. That's how effective you are at resisting the propaganda. And I've got fate points, which I think work quite well. I've introduced they can do something extra. They can also turn a failed roll into a successful roll. So in lots of rules now it says things like, if you have your health over X or your willpower over X, you can do this. If you've or the same. If it's below, then you can't. And if your willpower or health is actually below the amount they require, you can spend a fate point and carry on as if it was above or the same as the amount you require. So that's another use of fate points. I also had things like your identity. The idea of removing your identity and changing your identity came in quite late. I think it was just a last minute thing I had while I was filling in the inventor sheet, that if your chip and your memory, your brain cell had been wiped, and basically your money had been wiped and your links to the outside world had been wiped, why not just get rid of your name as well? So so you spend a lot of the book going around with no name, which is, I think that's quite an interesting concept, if I do say myself. What I do think I put something else in, which I think I did more of necessity and I wouldn't have if I wanted to, was an outfit. And I didn't put this in originally, but I did find myself writing things like, if you are wearing this, then turn to this. Mainly, if you are wearing an enforcer's uniform or not wearing an enforcer's uniform. And then I also came up with the idea that everything in the New Order of Worlds is chipped with a unique identity number. So each chip has a unique number. So you come home from work and your work clothes have a unique identity number. So what I was thinking was, someone could track that you own these clothes and therefore track you based on that, because your chip in your right hand's gone, they can't track you on that. So I thought, right, so you've got to keep track of whether you're wearing your old work clothes or new work clothes. And then I've came up to a lot of situations where people would react a lot differently to you if you're wearing an enforcer's uniform, so I put that in. And then for purposes of future scenarios, I put in things like a suit and an all-weather jacket, because you may come across a situation where you need to be dressed more smartly than normal. So I put it in as a necessity. I wasn't very happy with it, because it seemed like you were keeping track of too many things. And I know there are lots of game books where there are more things to keep track of, but I wanted to keep it as simple as possible. And when I do get around to writing the whole thing, which I'm on the way of doing, if I can think of a way of not having the outfit, I will do that. I'll get rid of the outfit, maybe have a code word instead, because I didn't really want the outfit in. Your identity, I think that's a nice idea, and the game may be affected based on what your identity is. So for example, if you got a chip from the Rebel, then that identity might be wanted because they recognise that identity chip as from the Rebel. Or you might be able to assume someone else's identity, which would be quite interesting. So you could find someone with a pretty high security clearance, somehow get their chip, probably in a very unsavoury way, considering it's in their hand and it's their identity. But you know, you can still get it, and assume their identity and break into all kinds of lovely places and find out who the rulers of the now really are. So in summary, I don't think it's as good as Sharkbait's Revenge. I think that's my best game book, partly for the reasons that it's going to be part of a longer game book, and the long exposition and the details that are irrelevant to the short game book such as the fact there are aliens and a robot, a female robot that the workers look up to. They don't really turn up in this short bit, so saying it was kind of a bit irrelevant. Hopefully that problem will disappear in the full game book, because they will be relevant. But then there's other little details, like when I was writing it, the idea of what some of the outfit was more important than I thought, so I had to put that across. And basically I tried to fit so much into 100 paragraphs that it might appear to be confusing. So there we go. I'll add a bit on to the end when, or I'll make another video after I've got the results and the voting and the comments from people. So I'm looking forward to that. So I will see you soon. Have a good evening, day, morning, afternoon, wherever it is.